So that means the place became a place of worship. Maybe probably in the later in the time of the disciples and so on, people will come to see the house of the mother-in-law. And over the time in the 4th century, 5th century, then the Byzantine authorities built a church over that place. So it started maybe as a small chapel, a small holy place, and then over the time it became a church. We see the foundation of that octagonal church. There's one thing that is always surprising the archaeologists. The building opposite the church, look at that. It looks like what we just saw before. Remember that? It's a synagogue. Again, synagogue from the 4th or 5th century. Why would the church tolerate a synagogue? At that time, tolerance was not very common. Because the synagogue became also a place of Christian worship. Why that? Because Jesus taught at the synagogue. So the synagogue becomes a place of Christian worship. So in a way, even if the Jews, and we are almost sure that the Jews eventually left Capernaum and the city became gradually a Christian city, the synagogue was kept in good condition because the pilgrims who came to the Capernaum came to see the house of St. Peter, but they also wanted to see the synagogue where Jesus did so many miracles and where he taught almost every week. So little did they know that the synagogue was not from the time of Jesus. It's only recently, I remember when I started guiding, there was a big sign, synagogue where Jesus taught. And we know from school that to recognize from the guide school, recognize this style, it's a late Roman style. It cannot be from the time of Jesus. But you know, Catholic properties, they can write what they want. But again, wait, I'm but then the pressure was mounting all the time until one day I saw the sign change. Late Roman period synagogue built on the ruins of the 1st century. And that's how we know. Okay, that is important. In archaeology, there are ethics and things like that. Here we are in private property; they are not bound to any ethics. But the public pressure outside made them change the sign, which is like today. And now we all agree. That means archaeologists and religious people that it is a late synagogue built on the ruins of the synagogue from the time of Jesus. We cannot remove all of it to see the other one, and it would be a pity to do that, but there's no doubt that it is underneath. As I told you, synagogues and churches were always built on top of each other. Whenever one was damaged, they were rebuilt on the same spot. Is that okay? Is that clear? Wonderful. So, and between them we see excavation of the actual town of Capernaum. You see the layout here? That's the Capernaum that Jesus used. He never taught in that synagogue there. He never visited the church here, although he might be very inclined to teach in the church. He was late. Remember that? I want to make sure that you understand that when Jesus was teaching and when he was talking and quoting, he was quoting the Bible. And when I say the Bible, he was quoting the Tanakh. I don't want to say the Old Testament because there were not two, but it was not all. I want to emphasize that an event that is an amazing event. Jesus and the synagogue, literally there. I mean, let's say, when we'll be there, I don't want to get but we need to give up 2 or 3 people about the real text. Among those things, amazing to me that during the man possessed demons, he said, those who don't drink my blood and eat my flesh are going basically to hell. Guys, it was the first time it was said was not at the Last Supper. It was said here at the synagogue, in the front of the Jewish audience who were listening to the rabbi speaking to them. A very well-known rabbi called Rabbi Yeshua. They were listening, and then all of a sudden, I call that he dropped a hand grenade in the middle of the crowd. It exploded in the face of everybody. What? What is he talking about? Guys, the Jews at that time never read the New Testament. They could not understand what it means to drink the blood and eat the flesh. And what did they do? I thought he was crazy. They're very simple, but at that time you don't say crazy. What do you say? he has a demon. And what happened? All the people, remember on the day, on the Shabbat day, all the Jews are leaving the synagogue, out. And even some of the disciples of Jesus, because Jesus turned to Peter and say, are you going to leave me? I'm sure Peter is always, I'm sure Peter is pale. He's not sure what is, but he says, I trust you. You must have a reason to say that. Maybe right now I don't understand it, but I trust you. So to whom shall we go, he says. That's really an amazing thing, an act of faith of Peter that is doing that here. But you understand, if you were there, you would say, you're the rabbi talking that way, you run away. So we can see here, and again, New Testament was not written today, and even some Jews will tell you they understand what it means to eat the blood. At that time they took it probably literally, and it sounds completely crazy. That's one of the things. But do you think it's what created the separation between Judaism and Christianity? It means follower of Jesus will go two ways. I don't think so. I think the most important, rabbis say what they want. Sometimes they are accepted, sometimes they say that doesn't end the world. But we're talking of politics. We're talking of politics when one of the questions in my eyes again, it's my, according to the gospel, according to Tito, yes? Jesus was asked one question in the crowd. Somebody said, shall we pay the tribute to Caesar? You're lucky you are with me. What I'm going to show you, Jesus said, show me a coin. And somebody opened his plastic bag and show him, at that time they had in the pockets, yes? Show a coin, and Jesus probably does the same like I'm doing, holding the coin that way, this side, and saying, whose face is on the coin? And what was the people answer? Caesar. And Jesus answers, guys, when you are under Roman occupation, if there's one person you hate the most, it's this guy, Caesar and his armies. What do you want? The Messiah to save you from the enemies of Israel. Who are the enemies of Israel at that time? The Romans. We want, if you are the Savior, save us from Rome. And Jesus says, oh, I'm from the United Nations, He says something that these people did not expect to hear. The people were expecting him to say, no, we don't pay tax to Caesar. I will collect that money, raise an army, and fight the Romans, like Bar Kokhba did 100 years ago, later. Okay, something like that. They did not want that. And that's a moment where people say, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks.
It's a trick question.
We want, it's not a trick question. When you're under occupation, everything. Jesus is telling them, and later, my kingdom is not of this world. That means I want to save you, but your souls after you die. Remember that many of the Jews at that time did not even believe in the resurrection. You know that? Sadducees. So they wanted Mashiach now. They wanted the Messiah now. They wanted the kingdom now. They wanted Jesus on the throne now. Not tomorrow, not after we die, not as our souls in flesh. We want rebellion. And Jesus said, that's not my way. Again, I think that's where the rift starts to open between Jews and the followers of Jesus. And eventually we can see how it grows bigger as more Greek adhere to that faith and less Jews, until it becomes more of a Gentile church. And the reason is, of course, the Greeks have no problem of politics with the teaching of Jesus. They are free. They are not occupied. They are living their kingdom. The Jews are occupied. They are the problem with Caesar. Okay? That's my vision again. Share with you. Can share the coin with you, guys. You can pass it around. You will see I'm a liar. It's not the coin that Jesus held. It's a later one. If you can read, it's Nero. But a coin like that. The coin that Jesus was holding is too expensive for me to buy.
Tito, would it be here that the Lord Jesus Christ healed Peter's mother-in-law?
Peter's mother-in-law. Here. Peter's mother-in-law. She was sick. She had
Fever.
malaria. Remember that? She had fever. What is a fever that was rampant all the time here? Especially malaria. So keep that in mind. So let's go have a quick glance to the church and then maybe sit in the shade there. I see the people have moved and then you can teach. That's a good thing.
אני חשבתי גם בצד שני, אם זה לא משנה, איפה שאתה רוצה.
כן, הכנסייה עושים לנו בעיות כל הזמן, כי הם שומרים את זה למיסות. ואז הוא בא ומזהר, הפעם שעברה שהייתי הוא פשוט הוציא את הקבוצה באמצע. אם יושבים שם.